What's up everyone, my name is Mike and welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to talk about today's drop actually coming very shortly here. I'm going to talk about the Pixar drop that we found out about just recently and we got the information from it, so I'm making this video just before the drop here. We're going to talk about price predictions, my game plan, and what you should be looking for in the market with these moving forward. Let's get into it. So as if things haven't dropped off enough with all the news of MTL being rolled out in beta and the market just dropping day after day, we finally get a decent drop, a good drop, and I'm not saying decent as in all the drops before this leading back to the 007 Aston Martin drop were not good. It's just repetitive comics and it doesn't appeal to a wide audience necessarily, but we have a wide audience drop, something that appeals to the masses in this Pixar drop. And we see pretty amazing characters in this drop, and I'm actually really excited for it. I'm not much of a Pixar fan per se. Obviously, when I was a kid, Toy Story really appealed to me, but it's still really cool to see these iconic characters come into the VEVE platform, and I'm sure many of you are just as excited, or if not more excited, for these characters to come onto the platform. I grew up with Toy Story, and my little brother actually grew up with Monsters Inc. and Cars coming onto the scene, and Up is just an iconic movie to appeal to a lot of different audiences. And Incredibles 2 was another one that my little brother grew up with, so needless to say, all of these characters have some sort of meaning in my life, and I'm sure in many others who are joining into this platform and wanting to get into these characters. So this is an iconic drop that we are getting, lots of first appearances and one first edition of note here. So first things first, when it comes to comparing these, we don't have much to compare them to in the platform because we've only got one Pixar drop, and that brought two different characters or objects items. One of those being WALL-E. He was an uncommon, saw 10,333 editions, and today he's going for 800. And this is a golden moment, so it's really difficult to compare these drops, these blind box Pixar drops, to a golden moment. And we've also got the Pizza Planet truck, and that saw 6,333 editions. That gets the first edition. As for WALL-E, gets the first appearance. Yet it's a rare, and it's sitting about 1,000 gems right now on the market. And you can get into the debate of FA versus FE, but in this case we see the scarcity of 4,000 less editions between WALL-E and the Pizza Planet truck, and the Pizza Planet truck still holding about 200 gems more than WALL-E at this current point in time. So this is where scarcity outweighs that FA versus FE tag, and as we've learned recently, FE actually holds a little bit less weight compared to FA in my opinion, and we'll get into that in another video shortly here. But I still think it's unfair to compare these Pixar drops that are coming up here to golden moments. Golden moments just hold so much more weight over anything on the platform for having been the first Disney golden moments on the platform. So I'm not gonna hold too much of a benchmark of the WALL-E and Pizza Planet truck to these Pixar drops, but it's just good to note what this Pixar is really going for in the platform, because these golden moments actually are on the lower end of the spectrum when compared to Star Wars, Marvel, Elsa, the Mickey Sorcerer hat. So obviously these Pixar drops in golden moments, when comparing all of the golden moments, are a little bit on the lower end of things. So that kind of gives us a benchmark as to what to expect with this. So I could get into comparing this Pixar drop to other blind box drops like the Marvel blind box drops, but I think I've got a good idea of where these might fall in the market afterwards. And remember that we're talking about short-term predictions here, so that we can set up a game plan for ourselves in the aftermarket to be able to purchase them at a price that we think is reasonable, as opposed to overpaying, because we really want to get a reasonable price or even underpay possibly for these. So that's what these short-term price predictions are meant for, so that we're not FOMOing into the market and wasting gems. This allows us to be reasonable, and it allows us to set a price prediction so that we know what we are looking for in that aftermarket as prices go up and down, left and right, so that we're not just panicking into a purchase with this. So this short-term price prediction is essentially hours after the drop, even days, and maybe even a week after that timeline where we're looking to get the best deal possible. Not necessarily immediately after the drop, because we will see that price go up and down for a little while as collectibles are being delivered to those who got them off the drop. At the beginning, we'll see less collectibles having been delivered. So the supply will be really low when that market first opens. So technically the price is typically really high when that market first opens. But as more collectibles get delivered, that price does come down because the supply catches up with the demand. And we typically see a leveling out hours after the market has opened. So let's get into these collectibles. We've got Woody and Mike Wazowski. Woody from Toy Story, Mike Wazowski from Monsters Inc. These are both first appearances. Everything in this drop gets a list price of $60 in the blind box format. And these are both commons, and that gets them 13,999 editions each, and that's on the lower end of common editions when it comes to blind box drops, just comparing them to Marvel characters here. We've got Lightning McQueen. He's also a first appearance. He'll be the uncommon in this drop and gets 10,999 editions. So that's 3,000 less editions than the commons. And we get the only FE here with the Up House, and that gets the rare at 8,999 editions, so 2,000 editions less than the uncommon in this case. And finally, Edna, a first appearance from The Incredibles. That's the ultra rare with 6,999 editions, 2,000 less than the rare in this case. And it's important not to necessarily compare rarities to rarities in other blind box formats. We're talking more so about editions, because the rarities could have different edition numbers when it comes to comparing other blind box drops. That's really important to note. And when comparing to other blind box drops, these are actually on the lower end for the edition numbers that are available for them. So we're going to see scarcity with this drop. So when it comes to comparing, it's really difficult, especially not seeing a Pixar blind box format like these collectibles to compare to. And it'll be really interesting to see where the demand is for a character as popular as Woody in this platform. But here's my predictions for each of these characters. I've got Woody coming in at 200 gems in the aftermarket. Just because I think it's such a popular character, I think it's going to sit really nicely in that 200 gem range. It may come down a bit, but I really see him sitting around that 200 gem mark, with Mike Wazowski coming in around 150 gems, 50 gems less than that. I do think Woody is more of an iconic character, so I think Mike Wazowski will be a little bit less in comparison to that. Now, I could see these collectibles going higher than that, or maybe even a little bit lower than that, just based on the scarcity of their edition numbers in this set. Now coming to Lightning McQueen, I think he'll go back up to around that 200 gem range, so less editions than Woody, less popularity, but there's less editions, so more scarcity in this case, so he'll sit likely around where that Woody will be sitting in that 200 gem range. And then we've got the rare Up House, but this is a first edition, and I think that characters have more authority in the space compared to first editions, because people have more of an emotional attachment to characters rather than objects and items. So I think this one is actually going to come down to that 150 to 200 gem range, even though it has less edition numbers. I could see it coming up to about 250 gems, but for the purpose of this, I'm going to say 150 to 200 for this rare in the series, which brings me to finally Edna, and with the lowest amount of editions in this series, but being one of the less popular characters, I think in this drop, we're going to see somewhere around 300 gems for Edna in the aftermarket for the short term. I could be totally off on these price predictions because we're going through a cycle in the platform where it's really difficult to set these price predictions based on what's going on with this extended dip that we're seeing, and especially with this gem squeeze that we saw leading up to this drop. Once again, we've seen the most popular characters come in on the commons, with the least popular characters in this drop, just comparing to other collectibles in this drop, being the ultra rares and the more rares. I think that's smart because the commons, the uncommons have more edition numbers to supply the demand out there for these characters, rather than the lower edition numbers of the ultra rares and rares in this series going out to a lesser demand. It's just a supply and a demand thing here, as well as it definitely brings in more licensor fees and VEVE fees in the aftermarket with the sales of these, if there's more volume for those common and uncommon characters that have more edition numbers. This Pixar drop just opens my mind to the amount of characters and collectibles that VEVE has to drop with all these licensors that they have and the popularity of them. There's so much more for them to get into. We have an endless supply of iconic characters in Disney, just Disney itself, regardless of all the other licensors that they have to drop. It's incredible what more they have to come for this platform for us. There's subsets of audiences that appeal to other characters. Like, for example, the Up House might not appeal to some characters, but some people might have an emotional attachment to it just based on the movie itself and the themes that that movie brought to it. For example, Inside Out was an incredible movie. I really enjoyed it, but because I hadn't had that experience that main character experienced in the movie of moving elsewhere and having to deal with that, I just don't have the same connection to those types of characters in that movie. But I'm sure there's lots of people out there who experience that, who have an emotional attachment to that movie and to those characters that would love to collect those characters in the platform. It just goes to show the wide variety of people out there and the collectibles yet to drop on VEVE. And if they come to the VEVE platform, we'll see a demand in those types of collectibles. With this drop, I really hope I get the Woody. I'd be very happy to get a common in this drop, and I'd love to know what you are looking for this drop. Leave it in the comment section below. Who are you wanting to get in this drop? What are your price predictions, your game plan? Let me know in the comment section below. I would love to know what you are thinking during this drop. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video, if you found it helpful for whatever reason, and subscribe to my YouTube channel for more VEVE content. Thank you so much for watching.